Now the only remaining question is what we should do with that user ID. Because previously we extracted it here in create event, and that was great because we needed it there. But now indeed the idea is to remove that token verification code from create event and instead do that with that middleware, which we will soon register as a general middleware that will be executed for certain requests. But of course we still need to get the user ID from here to in here, so to this create event handler here. And that's thankfully quite straightforward to do. Because Gin, this web framework we're using here, gives us a special method we can call on this context value on which we're operating here. And keep in mind that we got a pointer to that value, so we're always working with exactly the same value in memory, no matter in which middleware function or handler function we're using the context. And that special method it exposes, which I mean, is the set method, which simply is a method that allows you to add some data to this context value. Some data that is then attached to the context and hence can be used anywhere where the context is available. Now set wants two parameters, a key, so an identifier, and then the value that should be identifiable through that key. The key here could be user ID, but it is of course up to you. And the value which I want to set is user ID. And with that, I'm setting that for that key in authenticate. In events go, we can then extract it from that context. So there, first of all, I need my colon back here, because this is now the first time we are referring to some error. But then I also want to retrieve that user ID from the context. We can do that by using a get method, to be precise, the specific getInt64 method, which will automatically give us the value converted to the right type. Now here you should then of course use the same key as you used for storing it. So the same key you used here with the set method. That's what we use here for getting it. And as a result, we'll get that user ID, and hence it will be available again. Now we just have to make sure that the newly added authenticate request handler is executed before the event handler here, the create event handler. And to do that, and to make sure that the create event route is protected again, you should go to the routes.go file, and now you have two options. The first option is to go to the route that should be protected, and then there, as the first argument after the path, before create event, you can use the middleware's package and then refer to that authenticate function, like this. Because indeed, with Gin, you can register multiple request handlers, and they will be executed from left to right. Therefore, with that, if you save that and you start your server again, if you try to create an event, and you do that without a token, you will see that you get the not authorized error. So that still works. If you do send a valid token though, everything will work. So that's one way of registering this middleware and of making sure that it will be executed before the create event handler. But since we'll use it on multiple routes, also on put and delete for example, there is an easier approach you can use. You can use that server here and call the group method to create a group of routes. Now group then wants a path with which all grouped routes will start, and here I'll just use slash, because that's the one thing all grouped routes will have in common. Then, as a result, you'll get back a router group, which you should store in a variable. And here I'll name it authenticated, though of course the name is up to you. And now you can use that router group here to add routes to it. So now we can again use post and put and delete on that router group, just as we could use it on the server. So we can migrate all these protected routes to the authenticated group. So here we have the update route. And then as a last step, we also have the delete route that should be protected. But of course, at this point of time, they wouldn't be protected yet. They're just part of a group, which at the moment doesn't do anything. To protect them, you should also use that group to set up a middleware that will always be executed. And you do that with the use method. And here we now use the authenticate middleware like this. And hence we can remove it from here. And we can also remove these free routes from down there because we still got them, now just added to this group, which will now always run this middleware before the other handlers are executed. And that's therefore an easier way of ensuring that a certain middleware is executed before the actual route handlers become active. And therefore, as a result of doing that, if you restart your server here, you should now also see that if you try to delete an event, for example, let's say the event with an ID of, let me quickly see which events I have by getting all of them. Let's say we want to delete the event with an ID 4. If I want to do that, I could send this kind of delete request, but now I would get back not authorized. To make it work, we now have to add this authorization header and set it to that token that we got from logging in. So for that, I'll quickly send this login request again so that I get my token here, like this. And then we can use this token for the delete request. And now this should succeed, as you see here. And that therefore now proves that we're protecting multiple routes and not just one. But we actually don't have all the protection we want. Because you might recall that for updating and deleting requests, it's not enough if the user is authenticated. Instead, they should only be deletable by the user who created that event. And that's therefore what we'll implement next.